so I'm going to get started. Hi everybody and welcome to our webinar this afternoon on performance reviews and goals in Employment Hero. My name's Becky, I'm part of the customer success team here, and I'm going to take you through how you can set up your performance reviews and goals in the platform and how they actually work in reality. As one of the more substantial modules on the platform, it is likely to take the full hour for me to get through all of the content. So I've actually muted all of your microphones throughout the webinar. There is a Q&A tab at the top. You can enter in questions as we go into that Q&A tab. I may not have the time to have a look through those questions throughout the webinar, but it will keep a log of all of the questions that have been entered through there, and I'll be able to get back to you to answer any questions that I haven't covered during the webinar. This webinar is also recorded and it will be posted on our webinars page after. It should be there by first thing tomorrow morning. It takes a little while to download. But you can take down the URL that I've put on the screen. That's the webinars page. It's at success.employmenthero.com. You can then click onto webinars and EH system and you'll see a list or a page with all of the recorded webinars that we have on each of the features on Employment Hero. And just to note as well, I've put on the URL for our help centre. It's just a really useful site that everybody using Employment Hero should be aware of. If you've got any questions about any of the features on the platform, there's guides and articles there to help. So, performance reviews and goals in Employment Hero. Traditionally, performance reviews may have been recorded on spreadsheets, on documents, or in paper form, and are either kind of saved away, put in a filing cabinet, and can be forgotten about until the next review comes along and you realise you really wanted to be actioning some points on there. So what Employment Hero is doing is trying to make this process as easy as it can be, making it admin-free, while still providing you with as much functionality and flexibility to build detailed performance reviews in the platform. During this webinar, going to show you a review which I've already set up, so you can see how it looks on an employee's and a manager's perspective. And then I'm also going to go through setting up a performance review from scratch in the platform, so that you can see how to do that and also how to set your goals in the platform. You can do company goals, team goals, or individual goals. Now, these are both premium features. So if you're looking in your account and wondering why you can't find this in the menu, you might be on our free or our standard subscriptions. I've put on the page on your screen our premium subscription, or sorry, our premium features. So if you aren't currently on premium and you're interested in hearing any more about any more of these features, don't hesitate to get in touch. You can email us at success@employmenthero.com and we'll be able to either set you up with a new demo on one of these features, or you can speak to our salespeople about upgrading. So I've just put these features onto the screen now so that you can have a look through them quickly and see if any of them would be of interest. Obviously what I'm going to go through today with you is the performance reviews and goal setting. So I'm going to go straight into an Employment Hero account. So this is actually just a dummy account which I have here. My company here is the Wizard of Oz. You can see I've got a few outstanding on board here. But in my account here, just to make sure that you're all aware, I'm on a premium subscription. And I am an admin of this account, so I will have access to things like general settings and to create these reviews and goals in the platform. If you are on premium and you aren't seeing the reviews section here, the next thing I just want to note to you is you might have the reviews turned off. So have a look in your customization and then menu, and you'll be able to see in here each of the items from the left-hand menu. You might have your reviews unticked here. So just make sure that that's ticked and you'll be able to see your reviews in the platform. Now, as I've mentioned, you have to be an admin or an owner to be able to set up your reviews in the platform. Then all managers that are set up in the system, if a reporting employee is allocated a review, then the manager will also see the reviews in their view as well. So if you add an employee to a review, their manager is automatically included in that review. Just to note, if you aren't currently an administrator and you need to be made an administrator, it's really simple to do that, so I'm just going to cover that really quickly. Any admin or owner can make somebody else an admin. You just go to the relevant employee file, so let's say I wanted to make Meghan Markle an administrator. In the overview tab, you'd switch the make admin toggle to on, and that simply would change their access from an employee to an admin. I'm going to keep Meghan just as an employee for now. And I'm going to go straight through to my reviews. So clicking onto reviews, you see you've got the management section here. Now this management section is where I can see reviews that I have previously created. If you were to click onto the My Reviews, it will show you your own reviews. So you as an employee, as an individual, if you've been included in any reviews, you'd see them in there. So next to, or when I click onto the management button, what I'm seeing here is this review which I previously created, my performance review 2018. You can see the start and end date that's covered. And you can see your employee completion, so if they've started, if they're in progress, or if they've completed, and also your manager completion as well. Now, you can see that my royal family review up here has this current tag. So this current tab is just telling me that this review is covered in this period. So this is currently going on because we're between the start and the end date now. So this is a current review. This is the one that I'm actually going to have a look at today. So I'm going to click onto the title. Now you'll see the first page you're taken to. You can select if you want to see any direct employees. And in this example, I obviously don't have any employees in this review that are reporting directly to me. Or you can view indirect employees. So what I can see here is the employees that have been added to this review. And I can see they're both indirect employees, so I'm the secondary manager to each of these employees. On this page, you can see their name, what team they're part of, and their status. So I can see that Meghan Markle is in progress with her review. So she's made a start to the review, but she hasn't completed it yet. You can see their employee rating. So this is effectively generally a 5-star rating. That'll make more sense when I take you through this in a moment. And then you can also see their manager status. So you can see that Meghan's manager hasn't yet started reviewing her review, but Kate Middleton's is in progress. So I'm actually going to click through and have a look at Kate's review so far, because I can see that Kate has completed her review and her manager is in progress. So I'm going to have a look and click on her name to see this in more detail. Sorry, excuse me. Now, bear in mind, I am the administrator on this. So what I'm able to see in this review is really all of the details that both the employee and the manager have entered so far on this review. So just to note, at the top, what you can see is the days left in this review period. They've still got 44 days left to complete this review. How many questions are remaining? So how many haven't been answered still? If there's been an overall rating completed, you'll see that here, and also the review description. All of these details, things like the review description, you'll be able to set up yourself, and I'll show you how to do that shortly. I just want to show you a review first, so that when we're setting it up, you can start to recognise where things will sit. So down here is where you see we've got 3 tabs. Under each tab, there's a list of questions. So each of these tabs is effectively a separate review template. So when I created this review, I've been able to say, I wanted to make a template for my first quarter review. In that template, I wanted to include these questions. And you'll also notice that certain questions have this star rating and certain questions don't. So the beauty with the reviews in Employment Hero is that you can customize this to say which questions you want to include a star rating, what kind of topics you want them to be on, and which you just want to be kind of free text. You can then create templates, which are effectively a group of questions. And then when you're putting together a review period, you would select which templates you want to be included on that review. So in this instance, I've said that I want my first quarter review questions to be included. I want my MPS questions to be included. You can click on to expand to see all the details, and my problem solving questions to be included. Now, just starting at the beginning, what you can actually see here is under each question, you have the top box shows the manager's response. So my manager here, you see as QL, that's actually Queen Liz. And then the employee down here is KM, that's Kate Middleton. So what I can see is in the first question, the question reads, how would you rate your behaviour during your first quarter as a member of the royal family? Kate has given herself a star rating of 5. Now, under the star rating gives the description for what that star rating means. So that means that she would consider her performance or behaviour has been superior. This little description just explains a bit more about what that star rating means. And then in this text box below is the comment that she's written. So she said that she'd rate her behaviour as superior. She prides herself in setting an example, not only for her children, but also for the whole Commonwealth. As an admin, I can see that that Queen Liz, her manager, has also started this review and has written her comment. She's given a strong rating, so she's actually given 4 stars rather than 5 stars. And that means that she thinks Kate Middleton displays positive behaviours most of the time. And in her comment, she's written, there's only been 1 report for poor behaviour that's been reported against Kate. Kate raised this to me directly. We've since put measures in place to prevent this from happening again. So under each question, you can see the top box is the manager's comment, the bottom box is the employee's comment, and then at the bottom of each template, you have the overall rating. So at the end of every review period, or every review, sorry, you'll be asked to give an overall rating. So this is just a way for you to, or your managers and your employees to say, taking everything into consideration in this review, how would you rate yourself? So that is really how the review will look when it's been completed or when it's been set up. Now, obviously, in this instance, I can see that Kate has completed her review and she has published her responses, which is why her status showed as completed. But Queen Liz hasn't completed hers yet. So I can see here, Queen Liz, here it says unstarted. On this template, on the problem solving template, it looks to me that she hasn't done any of these questions yet. So she has started the review, but she hasn't quite completed it yet. So she's still in progress. Now, to show you what this would look like to her, I'm actually going to sign into Queen Liz's account. So here I'm now signed in as Queen Liz. She isn't an admin of Employment Hero, but she is a manager. So when she goes to reviews and management, you'll see that she's only part of this one review here. If I click onto that, then you see her direct employees are both Meghan Markle and Kate Middleton. She has a similar view. She can see each employee's progress. So she can see that Megan is still in progress with her review, and Kate is completed. So what you can notice on this page is you have this remind selected option. So this is just really useful as a manager. If you notice that Megan hasn't completed her review yet, and you know that you want to have, the next week or two to be able to write your responses or review her responses before you give your comments, she can sign in, see that Megan hasn't completed hers yet, and then send a reminder email to Megan. So if she clicks on that, that will automatically send a reminder email to Megan. That will say something along the lines of, this is a reminder that you have 44 days remaining to complete your Royal Family New Recruits review in Employment Hero. So that's just a really handy tool to note for managers. I'm actually going to have a look to show you that if I click onto Meghan Markle's review, Megan, we know, hasn't published her responses yet. So what you notice here is that Queen Liz, when she's having a look at this review, she can't see any responses yet from Megan. She can only see her free text boxes or her boxes to write her responses. But there's nothing here from Megan, because Megan has only so far gone in to write her draft responses and she hasn't published them yet. I'm actually just going to go back and show you the difference when you click onto Kate. Now, you'll see the difference here. Because Kate has gone in and she has actually completed her review and she's published her responses, Queen Liz can see the responses that Kate has published. So as a manager, you may want to, be able to review the responses that your direct employees have left before you actually publish your responses. So you can do that. You will only be able to view these responses once the employee has published them, though, just to be aware of that. So what I can see here, I'm just going to expand out each of these questions every time I go onto a different tab, so that you can see all of the details that are entered here. So when as a manager, or as an employee actually, when you have completed your question, once you've either entered the star rating or entered in the free text box, and as soon as you click out of that, you'll see this banner here will turn green. So that's just so that you can easily see which questions you have completed and which questions you might still need to fill in. So I can see that Queen Liz has already actually completed all of the questions under the first quarter review tab. Again, she's answered all of the questions under the NPS tab. And if I go to the problem solving tab, you can see that these are all still grey. So this is where I can quite easily see that, oh yes, I haven't finished answering these questions yet. And until you finish answering these questions, you won't actually be able to publish any responses. You can only save them as draft. So the question here reads, please give an example or examples of when you've been innovative to overcome problems this quarter. So I can see that Kate has written here, introducing the Royal Family Instagram page solved the biggest problem we've faced as a royal family. The commoners not understanding what we do with our days and the work that we put into the community. Sharing our stories with them shows a true reflection of what we do on a day-to-day basis. So I can review the answer that Kate has given and actually give my own response. So I might want to say, the Instagram page did solve a minor issue. However, there is still many problems to be solved. Obviously, these are just, ridiculous responses and ridiculous questions, but it's just to show you the function. So once I've typed into here, if I click out of that, anytime you click outside of this kind of box, you'll see that that's saved those details there for me, and that bar has turned green. if I want to review the next question, you'll see the slight difference here. I'm just going to write any response, yes, agree, is when I try and click outside of that box, even though I've put a response in here, that isn't turning green across here. Now, the reason for that is because there's this star rating. So when, as an admin, I created this review, I said that for this question, the employee and the manager will have to give a star rating for their response. So with these star ratings, you can hover over each of the stars, and that will give you an indication of what each star means. So you'll see that 1 star is unsatisfactory, and then there's an explanation for what unsatisfactory really means, so that if you're not sure, if you're between a 2 or a 3, you can work it out by the descriptions. Now, things like these star ratings and the titles of the star ratings and the descriptions for the star ratings, you can completely customize as you're setting this up. So I just wanted to show you this as an example. So I might say that in this example, I think that Kate has met the expectation and I've agreed with her comments. You see that once I've actually completed that star rating, that line across here has turned green as well, because I've now completed both the star rating and the text box. What areas do you think you've improved in since your last review? So I might want to review Kate's question here, or Kate's answer, sorry. She says she's improved the public's opinion of her, and then I can give my own response. So hopefully this is making sense, and this you can see how this is working here. The last question here reads, what area would you like to make improvements on during the next quarter? If you need any support to make these improvements, please raise these here. So I can see that this is the sort of question that would really trigger a discussion between you and your employee, or your manager and your employees. Because here Kate has said that she'd like to improve our international appearance. She'd like to firstly develop her language skills, and a French teacher would be a great start. So something like this, a manager might want to say, yes, let's discuss this further in our one-on-one. Again, at the bottom of the page, you see there's this overall rating. So this overall rating scale is something that both the employee and the manager will do. So this is really useful actually as a quick way to be able to see if the employee and or if the manager agrees with how well the employee thinks they're working overall. So I might say that Queen actually doesn't think she's doing good, she's just meeting expectations, for example. You'll see as soon as I finish that last section there, that publish button actually kind of became usable. So I can now publish this response. You do still have the option to unpublish if you need to, but I'm going to keep that one as published. So that is how the reviews function will work in the platform when you've set them up for your employees and your managers. As with the manager, when a employee hasn't published their responses yet, if they had just saved it as draft down here, the manager wouldn't be able to view comments. Same thing as for the employee. So if a manager, hasn't published their comments, then an employee wouldn't be able to see their comments either. So what I'm actually going to do is go back into my admin account and go through the setting up of this review for you so that you can see how this works and how you can create this to really suit your own business needs. So setting up reviews, you don't actually do in this reviews tab. To create reviews or set these up, you do it under general settings. and then review settings. So you'll see you've got 4 tabs here. The first one, review periods, these are the 2 reviews which you will have seen in my account earlier, the Performance Review 2018 and the Royal Family New Recruits Review, which we just actually went through. We actually recommend working through this page bottom up. So we recommend that you start at your rating scales. Your rating scales is the star ratings, which that I went through, which you could see at the bottom of each of those questions. The review categories is where you can effectively say what sort of topics each question's about. So you might have noticed that at the start of each question in that review, there was a word in bold, and that was the category that question was covering. Then you have your review templates. So your review templates is where you bring together all of the rating scales, review categories, and you put together a group of all of your questions to create those tabs at the top that you will have seen. So you'll see in my review templates, I've got that first quarter review, MPS and problem solving, and they were my 3 tabs that I had at the top of that review just then. Then lastly, review periods. So this is where you're adding employees to a certain review template, categories and scales that you've already created, and you'll be choosing when it would start, when it would end, setting deadlines, and obviously who's going to be involved in that review. So I'm going to go through each of these then in a bit more detail. So in the rating scales, you'll see these rating scales that have the blue system tag. These are all the built-in rating scales which you're able to use. So these will automatically be built into the Employment Hero account. If you click onto one of those to see it in more detail, you'll see in my standard rating scale, the ratings go from poor to superior, and you can read through each of the descriptions here. 1 will always be the worst option, and 5 will be the best. So you need to remember that this is relating to a number of stars. So obviously 1 star would be not as good as 5 stars. So you can see here I've got an orange rating scale, and this is one that I've created, so that's why it's showing as a company rating scale. I'm going to go through and create a new one, just so that I can show you how simple it is. I'm just going to call this general. So this might just be a really basic rating scale, really general rating scale, which I can use across any different sort of question. I actually recommend, when you're setting these up, creating a general or a basic rating scale, because I find that the more kind of generic they are, the more questions you can lay them across and they'll make sense. So as an example, I might want to set my options as really simply just poor, below average, average, good, and excellent. Now, setting a name and setting the names of each of the stars is essential, but you don't have to write anything in the description field. So in the description field, you remember when I was showing you that review, when I hovered over the stars, it told me the name for what each of those stars related to, but also it gave quite a long description. That's where you'd enter in those details if you want that to display. The reason I recommend setting a general rating scale is because then if you keep it as something quite broad or generic like this, you can apply that across multiple different questions and it will always make sense, because you can always understand that poor means poor, below average means you're performing below average. One thing to note with the rating scales, you can add up to 10. So you don't always have to stick to 5. There is a minimum of 5 stars, but you can keep on going and add up to 10 there. I'm just going to keep to my general rating scale here and click save. Really simply, that's then available for me to use. If you need to delete any, you can delete the rating scales that you've created yourself, but you aren't able to create the system rating scales, so just be aware of that. Right, moving up to review categories. So these are actually best described as the subheadings of your questions. So again, you'll see what you have available to use in the system, and these will each show a description as well. You can see, again, I have created 2 review categories here, and that's why they have the company tag. So I've created an innovation category and a service category. If you want to, you can create, however many categories as you want to. Quite often people will use this to reflect certain company values, for example. So I might want to say teamwork. Again here, the name is essential, but you don't have to put anything in the description. So I actually, again, like to keep this quite simple. Don't get confused by the fact that there's a question here. This is just to make it obvious to you what sort of questions you'd be asking against this category. But this isn't the question that you're actually asking your employees. So what you're doing here is just setting the categories for your questions effectively. So the subheadings, I'm going to call them. Now I'm just going to move straight up to review templates. Again, you'll see the stock standard one, which is built into the platform. That's the general one, and you can use that. But you can see I've created my own review templates here. And here you can see the name of them, if I've given a description, and how many questions I've included in that template. So just to remind you again, the template is effectively that tab that you will have seen at the top of that review I just ran. So you can, this is really useful to make templates around certain areas that you might track as a company, because you can then apply that template to multiple different reviews, and you can customize, different teams' reviews with, different templates that you've created in here. So I've got a load of company ones which I've already created, but I'm going to go through again and just create a new review template to show you how that looks. So I might call this public appearance. This isn't a very common one. I'm just thinking if I am using the example of the royal family, this might be something that they track, their public appearance. So that's what I'm going to select as a template here. So you can name this whatever it might be relevant for you. Again, the description is optional, so it's completely up to you. These questions are based on how you have affected the public appearance of the royal family. Now, here is where you will enter in the overall rating scale. So you'll remember on that review I showed you, at the bottom of each of the templates, each of the tabs, both the manager and the employee gave themselves an overall rating scale. So this again was that taking into consideration all of the questions and the whole performance, how did the employee perform. Here you can select from your predefined rating scales. So these are the rating scales that you've already got available from the system here, or that you've built in your rating scales tab. So you can see my general ones will be available. So that's the rating scale that I just created. And if I select that, the names will appear here. Just to show you a different example, if I use one of the built-in ones, such as performance, it'll give you each of the names, and also in the description, you can read through the descriptions here. Just to note, you can still edit this. So you can change the description field if you need to. So if you want to just remove out that end bit, you can do that. So I'm going to stick with a really simple overall rating scale. So I'm going to go with my general one, which I've created. Again, here you can still add in more levels. You can add in up to 10 again. So that's just so that you're aware. And then I'm just going to click save. and that has created the template for my questions. So this criteria section here is where you then add in each of the individual questions. So I'm going to just go into add new criteria, and the first thing you do is select the category. So these again are the categories that I selected in the second tab, or created in the second tab, and these are the subheadings for each of the questions. So this is where I mentioned that companies like to set up their values in here so that you can see which value this question is going to be asking you about. So I might say that this question is going to be based around teamwork, and the description field is where you write your question. So here I'm going to say, how well do you feel you have worked with the rest of the royal family team to achieve your team goals? What areas do you think you could improve? So here in the answer type, you have two options. You can either select scalar rating, and that will then give you the option, or will require that the employee and the manager will have to fill in their scalar rating, so their star rating, or you can just select free text. So if you select free text, this question is just going to show a free text box for each the manager and the employee to complete. If you select scalar rating, you will select which scalar rating they'd be selecting from. So if this was in relation to, or let's say if I wanted to use the standard, you again get to just review each of the star names and the descriptions. You can still make amendments to that if you need to. But even if you use the scalar rating, there will always be a comments box for both the employee and the manager to write their comments to the question. So this isn't choosing a star rating or a free text, but instead you're saying, do you want a scalar rating to be included? If you do, then yes. If you don't, then just click free text. I might just create one with just free text for now and click save. You'll see that question then appears here. You can still edit it if you click onto this little button here, or if you need to delete it, click onto the X. Then you just carry on adding in as many new questions as you need to by clicking on add new criteria. This one I might want to be around improvements. And you see when you select the system categories that are already built in, the questions that you entered in the description box will pre-fill. So you can use this if you want to, or you can remove that and you can create your own. So this might be, what improvements did you make this quarter in relation to your public appearance? And then you might want to say, actually, I'm going to use a scalar rating in this just to show you an example of how that will appear. So I'm using my general one, which I didn't include any descriptions. If you want to add in descriptions, you still can do. Then I'm going to create one more question, and that's going to be in relation to performance. And I'm going to say, how did you perform against your KPIs on public appearance? I'll keep this as just a free text box. So once you've started adding in questions, you might want to just really simply reorder them. So if you want to do that, you click onto these lines on the left, and then you can just drag and drop to reorder these however you like. So that is really kind of the basis of then your template created. So this is my public appearance template that I've now created. If I want to edit any of these details, if I want to edit the overall rating scale that I'm using, I can still click on to edit, that's fine. Once I've created that template, I'm then going to go up to review period. So this is all about who is part of this review, when is the review period, when the review should be completed by, when it should be published by, and the details around that. So I'm going to click on to add a new review period. Here I'm going to title this. So this might be Royal Family, just Royal Family. Actually, I'll put review here. Royal Family Review. And the start date and end date are the dates that you're covering with this review. So if I want this to cover from the start of July to the end of August, let's say, this is the period that I want employees to be reviewing their performance for between those dates. Then you have a lockout date. So this determines when the responses are locked. So it reminds you down here, but after this date, your employees are no longer able to write responses to this. So make sure that you're setting this date for something that's relevant. So you probably want it to be after the end date. So I'm going to say that I want the lockout date to be Friday, the 7th of September, so that after this period, after the end of the period that they're reviewing, they have got about a week to, or they've got a week to make sure that they have completed their responses and published it. The next option you have is to publish draft responses on lockout date. Now, this option is really important to be aware of. Now, if you tick this box, and I actually generally recommend that you do tick this box, it means that any draft responses will be visible to an employee's manager on lockout date, even if they haven't published it. Now, the reason I think that this is important to tick, or the reason why I recommend ticking it, is because if, say, an employee has entered in all of their information, but they've just haven't gone back in to publish it, or they've been off sick for the last 2 weeks, so they haven't thought about it, or they just, they just missed the deadline. You don't want them to lose all of that data. So this will mean that anything that they have entered, even if they haven't fully completed it, their drafts would be published. What I do recommend here is, if you do tick this box, make sure that your employees and your managers are both aware that that will happen, just out of courtesy, because what you don't want to happen is for people to be writing in, rubbish notes or something that they don't want somebody else to read as it is, and not be aware that it's actually going to be published, even if they don't physically publish it themselves. So do just make them aware of that. And then review templates. So this is where you're selecting from these templates which you've created. So you're effectively saying which tabs you want to be covering, or you want to be included in this review. So in this example, I might say I want to include the NPS. I want to include the problem solving, but I also want to include this public appearance template. So those are the 3 tabs that I want to see at the top of my review screen. And in each of those templates are a number of questions. Then you've got commence reminders. So the date you enter in here determines when we send email reminders to the reviewees. So it's important to just note that you want that to be, before the lockout date. So I might say that I want this to remind employees and managers on the 3rd of September, for example. Then in here, you're just saying what you want your description to say. So this is a free text box, completely up to you. You might want to say, reminder to ensure you complete this review by the 7th of September. Oops. You will not have access to edit this beyond then. So that's where you're kind of creating or setting up the details of the review. And then at the bottom here is where you're saying who you want to actually be included and complete this review. So you have the option to either add all employees. That will add all of your employees that you have on the platform. So in my Wizard of Oz account here, you can see all of this is just my test account, so I've got a few tests, but you can see all of the names of individuals here. I'm actually just going to remove each of those. What's actually really useful is that it tells you here the employee's name, the team, but also their manager. So obviously for every employee that you allocate a review to, their manager will also have to complete that. So it's just useful to be able to see that. So that's, if you wanted to use all employees or send it to all employees, you can do that there. You can exclude pending employees by ticking this box. And that pending employees are any employees that haven't signed into their Employment Hero account yet. So you might want to be excluding pending employees. Or you can add by typing in individual employees' names. So if I search for Rebecca Wilson here, you'll see oh, that's because that's me, myself. So if I type in Dorothy Gale, you'll see that she's an employee in this platform. I'll be able to allocate this to her. If I type in, I think I've got Toto the dog, you can allocate that to individuals. But what I'm going to do is actually allocate it out to my whole royal family team. So I've got a royal family team already set up in the platform. And then as soon as I've added that, I can see the names of the individuals. So that's Kate Middleton, Meghan Markle, Prince Harry and Prince William. They're all of my employees that are going to be included in this review. And you can see it's Queen Liz is the manager for each of them. Really simply, I'll just click save. And that will automatically create this review and then be able to see this here. And it will then have triggered an email to send out to each of those individuals to let them know they have a review either to complete themselves or for the manager. She'd have received an email to let her know that her reporting employees will have a review and that she'll need to be reviewing that as well. So you'll see that now appears here in my reviews and then management. Again, it has this current tab because we are currently between these two dates. And I can see that my employees haven't started that. That's obviously because I've just allocated that out. So again, if I just have a look through at my indirect employees, you can see that I can view Kate's and Meghan's progress on that because I'm set up as their secondary manager. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that's been useful for you to each see how to create the reviews and how they'll work in reality. They are really useful and really effective to use and to prompt answers within a one-on-one face-to-face review. That's what it's really designed for, is to be able to view the comments for the manager and the employee, who can then print off this review, and then during their one-on-one, they can then review each of the questions and discuss them in more detail. So the next thing I just wanted to, I'm conscious of time, but the next thing I wanted to go through was the goals that you can set up in Employment Hero. So, oh, bear with me, I just want to check that I'm in my right account here. Yeah, so I'm actually going to, oh no, I'll show you in this account. So you can see under goals, I'm still in my admin's account. Under goals, you have company goals, team goals, employee goals, and personal goals. So company goals are where you, oh, that's, sorry, bear with me. So company goals are where you can update your company's goals by quarter. So you can see here, I've already set a company goal that says, as a company, we strive to wizard 60% of Oz this year. That obviously makes no sense, but it's just because I'm in the Wizard of Oz account here. But if I, as an admin, wanted to update the company goals, then I can add new goals in here. So you'll see this is where I've completed or entered in my company objective and set the due date for that. I haven't set any tags for this one, but tags are really just for internal reference. So it's just there for a reference point if anything would be relevant for you. You can set up multiple company objectives over the one quarter. So you'll see I'm on the current quarter, Q3. If I wanted to add in a new company objective here, so I might say, as a company, we should achieve 1,000 plus, I can't think of one example right now, public appearances this quarter. Now, if I wanted to add in a tag for something like this, it might just be something like public appearances. And then you set your due date. So like I said, the company goals are all done by quarter, so it will automatically show you the last option is the end of the quarter. You can carry on adding in as many goals as you need to, but just as, you know, set as many as is relevant for you, and then you click on to set company goals. So you'll see now there's the 2 company goals appearing, and this is how the tag appears. Those company goals will then be visible to every employee that's set up as part of that company. So now if I go to Teams, you'll see as an admin, I can set team goals for any of the teams that I have set up. So if I go to my royal family, you can see I've already set up a team goal for the royal family. So I've said the royal family team aim to achieve an overall NPS score of 8 this quarter. I've got the NPS tag and the end of quarter due date. Again, I can update these team goals, and I might want to add in a new goal that is the royal family aim to reach 60 plus visitors over the next quarter. And here is where you'd enter in your tag, so I might put in visitors. And here you'll see in the teams you can add a metric. So if I've said 60 plus visitors, this is the target that I'm trying to achieve. So I'm trying to achieve 60, and the unit is visitors. So I can then set my due date. So you'll see if I want to, I can set this for further in advance. So if I then set these team goals, you'll see that now appears here. And you can see the 0 of 60 visitors, which I set up as the target. Now I'm actually going to sign in as a member of that team. So I'm signing in as Prince Harry here. Now the first thing you'll notice is he actually has a review notification here for the review period that I had added into. So you'll see, if you want to actually, I can click into to show you this. This is where you can see the review that I actually just created. He would have received an email as well to prompt him to sign in to complete this, but this is how that looks. So you can see the 3 different templates which I created there. Now actually going to goals, because that's what I was just going through. If I go to goals and then company, you'll see I can see the 2 company goals which I've set in this quarter. So this is so that your employees can always refer back to see what the company is striving towards every quarter. If I click onto Teams, I can select the team that I'm part of, and you'll see I have the option here. I can view each of these team goals, and I can actually add in a new goal for the team. So if there's anything that I needed to add in here, I can do that. Oh, now the employees tab, is where if you were managing any employees, because I've actually signed in as Prince Harry, he doesn't have any employees reporting directly to him. So he isn't able to view any of his reporting employees' goals. But if you are set up as a manager in the platform, that's where you can view those. And personal is where, as an individual, as Prince Harry, this is the goal that I've been set. So this is where my manager or the administrator has set me a specific goal for this quarter. So you can see I've actually got 2 goals. Goal 1 is to achieve 25 public appearances at charity events. That's due on the 30th of September. And goal 2 is to achieve a consistent NPS score of 7 and above over the quarter. Now, what I can do is go in and edit this. So I can say I've actually achieved 15 of these already and click save. So this will save there so that I can see how close I am to achieving that goal, how far off I am from achieving that goal, and also my manager can see that too. Now what you can see here is Rebecca Wilson, who is the admin on the account. She'd created this goal and allocated it to this individual. You can see when she's done that, and you have this goal discussion option here. So if I wanted to say I have achieved 15 out of the 25 appearances so far. This is a really good example to be able to say, I have concerns that I'm not going to be able to achieve another 10 because X, Y, Z. Please, can we review, or can my workload, or let's say, please can we review, and then it prompts that discussion. So if you were to then leave this comment, it says, it notes it down here, it tells you Prince Harry has noted this, and that would send a notification so that Rebecca Wilson knows to review the comment and she can then respond. So it sets a goal discussion so that you can keep a track of those. Exactly the same thing with the second goal. You can add in your own personal goals. So if you know that you actually also want to achieve something else, then you can add that in yourself, and that makes it visible then to your direct manager. They'll be able to view your personal goals under the Employees tab.